the strategic issues that we talked about were just the sources of capital, how to get it started, the seed capital as well as the ongoing capital, and then stress testing the model. When you start to talk about selling this to an organization like a BP or Shell or Dow, understanding and having in place the governance structure so that the companies that are putting money into this actually have confidence that what was committed to them in the sales pitch is actually going to happen in the field someplace else in the world is going to be a big piece of their decision process about whether or not they support this, and having an audit process in the field that what's planted in the case of deforestation is actually there and hasn't been pilfered or hasn't destroyed by fire or whatever. And then a strategic issue is actually how to get this started. We talked about when it gets started, it probably isn't going to happen with normal investors. So it's either going to be venture capital funds or maybe somebody who are in fact either a leading company, a leading thought leader in their industry, or rich individuals who want to contribute to the good of mankind may do this as a donation to get the first 5 or 10 plots actually put in place and used as a demonstration for the model. And then we also talked in terms of strategic issues, how do you get the young people connected to this? This actually resonates with people that are maybe under 28 a lot more than those of us who are over 50. That doesn't mean that's not very many in the room anymore, but we talked about things like campaign bracelets, things like the Lance Armstrong example of how to get people engaged in supporting cancer fighting, those kinds of things. But what was talked about earlier today about how do we connect through the web, how do we connect through the internet, how do we actually get this kind of issue to energize a younger generation? There's a huge opportunity there in terms of raising money from that segment of the society. And then some of the obstacles that we talked about was as World Vision gets into this, a risk is, does it become a distraction from the World Vision brand? I mean, in other words, it's very clear right now what child sponsorships are and how that actually is the identity. And as you start to paint the picture of climate change and the connection to the poor and World Vision's current brand, does it dilute? Does it make it more difficult for people to understand what World Vision does? And it isn't, in my view, it isn't obvious to people immediately how all of this is connected, but with the proper marketing tools, it can be done. But it's actually, it requires some thoughtful design, and it also requires some risk-taking on the part of World Vision. So that's an obstacle. That's really kind of an internal sell. Another obstacle is capital availability and the governance process, and then proving the model. An obstacle that we have, as I understand it from talking to Chris, there's one model in Ethiopia. Doing that a few more times to know that it works before you go to a broad audience of corporations to try to get this to be supported more broadly would be an obstacle. So that was kind of the summary of our group's discussion, and there's a bunch of folks around our table. Let me open it up.